Shaman in the lane, it's kill potential not too high, and you're up against a Undying lane. So Shaman is like Lion. Obviously, we all think the same. Yeah, gonna at the end of the day, he's gonna have a tough laning phase, and as a result of that, the impact of the hero got severely hampered because he died, I think 2 or 3 times in the lane in total. So he needs levels and ultimately the dagger to be able to do his job properly. But I think he got the level 6 timing I wasn't sure, but overall I feel the laning phase, he had too much to deal with in the laning phase, and they just got ball out of control.
He's really good versus like a solo Clockwork or even a solo Tusk.
Yeah,
but
if it's one hero is fine, but if it's 2v2 or 3v2, he doesn't shine in that sort of matchup.
Which they should have anticipated because their first 2 picks were...
It's Tusk Undying.
Yeah, we mentioned that right away, that, okay, this is most likely going to be the duo.
So actually, it's not really exploiting a weakness. They just like kind of picked into it.
That said, though, I actually want to commend Fnatic on how well they played after the disasters early. Like, they were behind 17-1. It looked like it was going to be a complete stomp, but they actually managed to keep like the gold advantage at a reasonable level.
The Midas from the Bloodseeker was actually kicking in. That's why it wasn't as big as we expected.
And they also stopped. They stopped getting picked off. Right, they just got picked off way too much in the first 20 minutes. But then they played an actually really solid mid game where you could definitely tell that had the early game not gone like as a complete disaster, their game plan could have easily come together. And to me, their draft made a lot of sense. The laning stage just didn't go their way at all.
Okay, all right. Now, just because we've been focusing here and there on certain picks, obviously Undying was the theme of the day for yesterday. And today, coming across, we saw some Ember, but now for these teams specifically, Bloodseeker's kind of been on their mind. They both used it against Team Secret, and then Fnatic tried to bring it out again. Didn't work out this time. Do you think it's still something that's going to be in high contention, or at least both teams are going to be a little aware of it? Or, I mean, on IG side, they just won against it. I don't know if they'll be too worried. What are your thoughts, Winter?
I think the hero itself is a little similar to Viper in the sense where he has a job to dominate the lane, and he has to have a good start. He can't afford to fall behind like a hero. Obviously, SF is a hero where we talk about if you fall behind, then you can raise the jungle and you just come back. But for Bloodseeker, it's more of he needs to be on a roll to be able to be a driving force in the game. So he had a very bad laning phase, but he still managed to recover with the Midas. But all in all, I think Fnatic's lineup in that game had to do well. Like even if they were able to hold the game for a long time, but at the end of the day, you're fighting against a PL, and your safe lane your position 1 is a Bloodseeker. You don't want to go to a 50, 60-minute game against a PL. You're not going to win that matchup.
I think it's a really good point that, in a way, on paper, Bloodseeker's weakest position is safe lane. Because if you put Bloodseeker safe lane and you don't run an aggressive tri lane, you don't have pressure on multiple lanes, right? So I talked about it earlier that the way you utilize a Bloodseeker and make him extremely powerful is that you just deal damage, right? You deal damage to enemy heroes somewhere on the map, and he wins his lane as a result. But when you're playing him in the safe lane, the off laner just plays passively, the enemy safe laner is just free farming with full health, and the mid lane is a wash, then all of a sudden your Bloodseeker is just like a standard hero in lane. And he doesn't farm that fast. He's like an average carry in that sense, I would say, but the way he utilizes farm compared to PL, that for me is like a no-brainer. You would rather have a PL with 15k net worth than a Bloodseeker with 15k net worth. And that wasn't even the case, because PL out-farmed him as well, right? Because he farms faster. So I think if you just looked at the draft in isolation with what they had, if they could have somehow put their lanes different, I think that could have made for a much better game for them. But I don't know what they could have done. Like, they kind of cornered themselves with the picks they had.
I mean, it's quite difficult to change their lanes looking at
Bloodseeker
the lineup. Yeah, probably.
Yeah, it's pretty tough.
But it's still Bloodseeker versus Panda, right?
Yeah, I think that's even.
Probably better, maybe for Bloodseeker, I'd say.
And then you can run an aggressive trialing with your Razor, and then all of a sudden your Bloodseeker can win because Razor's pressuring, and you're doing damage in the lane.
I mean, they could have changed their lanes, obviously, but maybe they didn't expect the lanes to go that badly. That's why they felt it was. I mean, it's easy for us to say.
Yeah, because it's hindsight,
Yeah, they should have changed their lanes, but probably they figured that our lanes might not be so disastrous as what happened. That's why they lane it the way they did.
I think that's a good way you put it, because that's kind of going off of what Synderen said earlier. If that early game hadn't gone that badly, maybe we would have seen the game differently.
Their lineup is fine. Like, if everything is smooth sailing or even 50-50, like throughout the early game, their lineup comes together very strongly in the mid game. But sadly, they just fell behind too much in the early game. Lanes didn't go well.
All right. Well, as we saw, players are getting ready for Game 2. We should be jumping in here in just a second as you go into the draft. Now, of course, Fnatic, they tied 1-1 against Secret, so they have something to lean back on. They're like, all right, well, we took a game off of Secret. That's not a bad place to start TI5. On the flip side, IG, they definitely want to continue with this game plan and try to get that 2-0 to get those 3 points so that they also have a relatively good start to their TI5 journey. Now, we're looking at a couple of our other matches that are going on, too. Just a reminder, we do have 3 matches going on at the same time. Do you guys have updates on these? I mean, I'm looking at, MVP Phoenix going up against Na'Vi. And
Looks pretty close.
yeah,
This is a pretty close game.
Yeah. I mean, it looks like MVP Phoenix is slightly ahead for now, but what I've heard was Na'Vi was farming a little bit better going onward. So
And they had Magnus PA.
right. I mean, that seems like that's going to be the big
Navi are
point.
very comfortable playing late game scenarios where they have Dendia and Magnus in the melee core. And I've just seen this type of game many times from Navi where their early mid game doesn't look that good. And then they have this particular combination of heroes and they just destroy the enemy. And all of a sudden they just get like a 5-man team wipe because of a good RP and then they just chase them down. So this one could go either way, honestly, right now. And the other match was
Newbie versus Virtus.
Newbie versus
Newbie Virtus. That was fairly close, and then Newbie made a couple mistakes, and Virtus took it. Was that a 40-minute game, I think?
Yeah, Newbie looked like they were, they've been practicing, and I think they put up a very good fight versus Virtus Pro, and I think a lot of people would rate Newbie like probably 13 or 16, but again, they were first place last year. So I rate them a little bit higher than that.
So we'll have to wait and see. But VP currently leading that series 1-0. Right now, as you can see on our screens, we are into draft on the main stream back to Game 2 of Fnatic versus IG. So if you want to check out the other matchups, definitely hop on to Stream B or Stream C on Dota2.com. But if you're going to stay around, let's get through the draft here as we look at, Undying being banned out by Fnatic. Just didn't want to deal with that this time.
They just had, on top of the Shadow Storm being weak and them losing that lane, they didn't have a solution for the Brewmaster in the fights, and on top of that, they also didn't have a solution for the PL in the late game.
Yeah.
So I think at all stages in the game, they were outdrafted of sorts. And as you say, Fnatic, they don't have a super well-rounded draft.
They had to do well in the early phase.
Yeah.
That's their mission for the whole lineup to work. Yeah, more or less that.
So Tusk.
Yeah, I was going to say, has been left open. Fnatic will take advantage of that this time.
Probably going to see burning on a gyrocopter this game, most likely.
Yeah,
Okay.
you want to, as I said before, you want to have mass AoE damage against Snowball, so you can deal with that. And yeah, Gyro seems like something that IG is very comfortable with in the past as well. So
I think Gyro Shaker is a solid response
Yeah.
to a Tusk opener like this with the heroes that are banned. This would be a pretty good pick.
doesn't give away too much, and lanes are still alright. You have good lanes, and Earthshaker can be offlane, can be support, so quite flexible in that matter.
Or Gyro Dazzle. I like Dazzle.
Dazzle.
Yeah,
like
Dazzle
true.
as
Yeah,
well.
that's
Yeah,
true, yeah,
Gyro
we-
Dazzle as well.
Somehow kind of slips by the radar now and then, but yeah, Dazzle has been definitely a high priority for most teams so far in TI5.
I wonder if they're going to forget about Brood. It's going to happen again in the group.
Yeah,
stage. it always
it
happens.
has to, right? That's just part of the rule. I mean, with this many games going on,
You should have like a note you put on your screen, the screen of the drafter. You just have like a little post-it. You just put it on there. Ban Brood second phase.
No.
You just put it.
We actually had that in the past where we bring a small notebook and we would stick sticky notes on top.
that's not a bad idea. I mean, if you're allowed
As,
to, why
as a
not?
drafter, you would okay, this team,
Yeah.
and there will be a page for yourself. Okay, don't forget to pick Storm for Mushi. Don't forget to ban stuff like that.
That would be a good idea. But Bloodseeker actually going to be now taken for IG.
That's a bit surprising.
Huh.
It's not a-
I'm actually pretty surprised about that.
Was that the same opening they did versus Secret? I
Yes.
kind of remember they opened the same way.
Yeah, well, in the first 2 picks,
Yeah.
it was Gyro Bloodseeker. I mean, it might have been reversed, but either way, it was on the same side as second and third pick, rather.
So the idea of having Bloodseeker versus Tusk is he snowballs in with his team, you silence them with your bird, right?
It's actually pretty nice, and you have cooldown too. There's
Yeah.
two really good response abilities to have.
Yeah, but at the same time, you can just wait until he ruptures and blood rights and then snowball everyone and avoid so much of the damage.
Then Snowball would
Yeah.
be used against Bloodseeker.
Yeah, it works both ways.
That's how Snowball always is. It's never bad. You can
Yeah.
always dodge something.
That's why he's first pick.
Yeah,
Right. All right, and then the Witch Doctor now on the other side, so kind of just swapping things back out.
Snowball in the Death Ward. That would actually be sick.
That would be
You
pretty sick.
You remember when there was the bug where you could snowball in landmines? You could like put them into your snowball and then roll in. That was really, really good. That got hotfixed. That was sick.
Wow.
Yeah,
Because they counted as a unit, and you could like
Okay.
pick up units, right?
all right.
Wow. Okay. Well,
The real nightmare.
That is
The real nightmare. That's the worst
like
of those
that is the
techies.
worst case scenario. That sounds pretty bad. And just so we're clear, Broodmother does get banned out.
so Fnatic is like, okay, we are not dealing
Yeah.
with Broodmother.
They don't want to give that up.
Do you think they'll spring for a Zeus again, or what other? Do you think that Bloodseeker is suitable for Ferrari's playstyle, or do you think they should put it on?
I actually
else,
think
or
Bloodseeker
Lua?
is more suitable for their position 3 player Lua because he's more of the utility type of player, and Ferrari, you would want to give Ferrari a hero that can carry or flash farm and be as a backup core or something like SF. SF is obviously not in the pool, or a Storm, like someone that can carry the game himself. Like Bloodseeker, you can definitely snowball, but it's not as strong as like a SF or a Storm.
Okay. Well, Storm being banned out by IG. Taking
So they
intercept.
don't want them to have tools to jump the gyrocopter.
Right.
Do IG have faith in their draft against Secret and just go for the Zeus again? It looks
well-
okay so far.
I think it was a decent draft. Like,
I mean, it wasn't really the Zeus that didn't work the last time, though. I
Yeah.
feel it's just like overall they got outplayed, and
Right.
the supports were too defensive. I would say, it was less of a problem of the Bloodseeker plus Zeus combination.
So maybe it's worth a shot to continue with it. And for now, it's going to be being locked in though.
They also had Lina that game, right?
Did they? Was that
Or was
the
it
last pick?
Rubik?
I can check it out.
They
Yeah,
had They definitely had Rubik against the TA because I remember
They had
No,
Rubik and
Lina
Winter Wyvern.
against-
Rubik Wyvern. you're
Okay,
right,
yeah, because they picked Lina against the Brood. Correct. Yes.
yes, they had Lina in the second game.
Yeah.
That's right. That's how it was.
well, they don't really have any setup on IG right now. Like, just no way to hit Lina stuns, no way to hit like Blood right decently. So, I don't know. It's a little bit of everywhere right now with their lineup.
I feel like that's kind of been the story of quite a few of the Lina picks, is that you're putting a lot of responsibility on Lina's individual skill to land those stuns instead of like getting an easy setup. I think we've seen multiple Lina picks now without an obvious engage tool, which
Well, the same
is
thing's-
quite uncharacteristic for support Lina. For core Lina,
Right.
it's a lot different because she gets the Yules herself really fast, and then she can be her own initiator, right? But
If you run a support Lina, it's the same basically as a point where I mentioned earlier with the Lash, where LGD wanted to play a support Lash. So usually when you play a support Lash, it's the same like Lina. You want a partner that sets up for your stun.
Right.
Otherwise, you're just like, okay, I'm going to try and roam, but no one's there to set up my stun. Like what Sin mentioned. If you're caught, obviously it's not a problem because you have the use scepter at a decent or good timing.
Okay, so do you think then here the plan is, all right, we'll now pick something that rounds it out and definitely has some setup for Lina? Do you think it was still just a continuation to pick against Tussin
Wow.
and Snowballs, or as we see Wraith King being picked up by Fnatic?
this is just like classic every team that Mushi is in. Like we don't care, I remember, I think it was a stat from TI3. I think Mushi played the most different heroes
18
out of
heroes.
any player.
18
He played like 18 heroes in, I don't know, 20,
Wow.
23,
Yeah.
4
Basically,
games.
like
Something like that.
almost every
Absolutely
match he's
ridiculous.
playing something different.
Yeah.
And this game, in my mind, when I see the Wraith King, I'm thinking like, rupture me, I blade me, and I'm running around.
Yeah. And it's also really good with Snowball because it's a hero you carry into the middle of the fight that you're not scared of getting out of
Yeah.
position with because you can actually still, you have your
You have
second
second
life.
chances with that hero.